Good morning, everybody. How are you today? Well, last week we started a new series on conscious evolution, and I want to tell you exactly what that means. Consciousness is the way we think, the awareness that we have, the way we perceive things. Our consciousness creates our reality. Evolution takes something from a simple state and grows it into a complex state. At some point in time, consciousness of the universe was as simple as that of a one-cell organism, and it has evolved and has grown into everything that we see today. Conscious evolution. It's quite exciting, as you're going to find out later in the lesson, and there is actually a way that we have come to know where we can create our own reality. We can change the reality that we're in simply by changing the consciousness that is representative of that. Last week, I asked people to send in questions. Just write them down in a little envelope, put it in the offering basket. Questions about the lesson of last week or insights that you might have. I want to know what you think. There's a brilliance in every one of you. There's a wisdom that I don't have. So share your insights, ask your questions, and we will answer a couple at the following service, or there'll be something on the website that will answer the rest of the questions if we don't have time. So one of the questions that came forth was, as I was talking about evolution and how this energy came forth in the Big Bang and it continued to grow and move and evolve, somebody asked, well, where is God in all this? And that's a good question. Well, God is it all. God is everywhere, and God is in everything. And God is the energy that came forth from the Big Bang. God is evolution. God is consciousness. God is in you. God is in me. God is it all. So when it comes to evolution, it doesn't leave God out, as some might think, but rather God is the energy and the movement of evolution. If you think of it this way, say the universe is represented by the ocean, metaphorically. And each and every one of us is like a drop of water in the ocean. That is, we're part of the ocean, we're of the same substance, yet we can have an individualized existence. The movement of the ocean, the waves, the ebb and the flow, is the life force. But God is the wetness. And without that, there is no ocean, there is no wave, there is no drop of water within the ocean. God is a wetness, everywhere present, but also beyond, not confined to the ocean. The second question was, what does Christianity think about evolution? And that was a little bit more difficult to answer. But the bottom line is that Christianity totally believes in evolution, and Christianity totally disbelieves in evolution. There's so many different segments within Christianity. Once again, metaphorically speaking, think of Christianity as a plot of land on the earth, and from that plot of land comes many, many different kinds of flowers, a wide variety. There's different shapes, there's different sizes, there's different colors, there's different smells, many, many wide varieties of flowers, and each one of those is a little way of thinking within Christianity. So within Christianity, you have the ultra-conservative, fundamental end of the spectrum, which doesn't believe in evolution at all. They think it's some far-fetched hope, and they find it irresponsible to teach it. And on the other end, you find people that embrace evolution. Because on that end, on the liberal end, there is a bridge between their spirituality and science. And as science discovers more and more as time goes on, their beliefs change. Their beliefs advance, and their beliefs evolve along with science. So here we have Christianity. It believes, it disbelieves, it's pro, it's con, it accepts, it rejects, depending on where you're at on the spectrum. But the thing is, everybody thinks they're right. And I don't know how that can be in this day and age. So today we're going to continue on with conscious evolution, the evolution of consciousness. And to do that, it is necessary that we discover where we came from and where we're going. Researchers, theologians, and other experts have discovered that they can track consciousness back 100,000 years. So we go back 100,000 years, we have the first realm of consciousness, and that is primarily set on survival, safety, physical comfort. It didn't go beyond that. Every realm of consciousness has a value, and in the first realm of consciousness, it is survival. It is stay alive, feel well. As simple as that. Stay alive, feel well. Thousands of years pass, consciousness evolves into a second realm, and the value there is on bonding, on kinship, on becoming part of a tribe or part of a family. We need that social connection. In the third realm, once again about 1,000 years later, we have the ego that comes into being. And with the ego, the individual self is the one of prime importance. It goes beyond the tribal mind or the herd mind. And with the ego comes self-righteousness, self-centeredness, self-importance, all of those things where the self is the primary value. On the fourth level of consciousness, we move into that time when a hierarchy develops. There are certain people that elevate to the top and they become rulers. There's kings and there's queens and there's kingdoms and there's all sorts of different kinds of rulers. And in that realm of consciousness, people learn how to be obedient. They learn how to conform to the norms of culture. They learn how to give up their self and follow the rules and regulations of somebody else. And this is about the time that the church came into being, interestingly so. In the fifth realm of consciousness, we move into that point where the industrial age comes into being. Now we're talking about this century. The industrial age comes into being, and the value is on success. It is on getting money, getting power, getting some sort of place in the community that has a prestigious aspect to it. So here we have, then we have the sixth realm of consciousness, which we come more back to center point, and we're concerned about environmental concerns. We are more community-oriented. We are more in doing things that are good for the whole and not necessarily for ourselves alone. So we have 6 realms of consciousness here that have taken place over the last 100,000 years. Now that tells us 2 things. First of all, that consciousness does evolve. There's an evolutionary factor to it. But the second thing it tells us is that as time has gone by, consciousness is evolving faster and faster and faster. Now you might resonate with all 6 realms of these consciousness. You might identify with them. You can kind of understand that mindset because the 100,000-year evolutionary trek is pretty similar, if not identical, to your own personal evolution. As babies, we come into this world, and what is our primary value or our primary concern? It is on survival and safety. The only thing we're conscious of as a child or as a newborn baby is for survival. 2 things threaten us. One is a loud noise, another is the fear of falling or being dropped. Survival. And for security and comfort, our concerns are being fed, not having aches and pains, feeling comfortable. And that is primarily the consciousness that we have when we come into the world, right? It is very, very simple. As we move into the second phase of our own evolution, we begin to open up to the importance of bonding. First with mom, and then with other family members that hold us and feed us. And then as we grow, family, friends, and other relatives come in. And so it's that bonding, that social inner connection that becomes of great importance to us. The third realm of consciousness, just like the human consciousness, is when the ego comes into being. And if you know any 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds out there, you can identify with this because they take on a self-importance. They take on an authoritative attitude. They want what they want when they want it. Sometimes we call it the terrible 2s, or the terrible 3s, or the terrible 4s, or the terrible teens, or sometimes it's the terrible 50s. People just can't can't get out of that egotistical realm of consciousness. They want what they want when they want it. And that is simply it. As we move into the fourth realm of consciousness for each and every one of us, we move to that time as young adults where we begin to think about our future. And we're concerned about a job, we're concerned about homemaking, we're concerned about a family, we're concerned about all those things that are going to have a direct effect on our future. The fifth realm of consciousness is a mature adult, let's say, and that's where we become involved with community and where we become involved with social issues. We want to do things that's good for the whole and not necessarily just ourselves. So there are the 6 realms of consciousness that we have experienced, each and every one of us, and there are also the 6 realms of consciousness of human beings. Now, if you look on your front of your bulletin, a fellow named Don Beck and Chris Cohen developed spiral dynamics, and it shows the spiral of consciousness realms, or they call them memes, consciousness realms that have brought us to this time and place. And the little number just to the side of each realm of consciousness indicates the percent of the population that is dedicated to that particular realm. So as you can see in your bulletin, there is still 1% of the world population that is primarily concerned with survival, safety, and security. You get to the top, the 7th and 8th, you see there's about 1% that are concerned with the higher values of life. When we move into the 7th realm, only 1% of the population occupies that. But as we move into it, we discover that there's an easing up. We're not so tense. We're not so anxious or fearful. If somebody disagrees with us, that's okay. Things don't have to be our way. We're not worried about the future. We have no regrets about the past. We just come to a point where we want to live in the moment. We want to do what is good for the world. And that is the realm of consciousness to come. We have fleeting moments in there, each and every one of us. There's times that we have that feeling, but then we resort back to one of the other realms of consciousness as our permanent residence. And then when we get to the 8th realm, it is called integral thinking. And integral thinking is when we embrace all of the world as we embrace ourselves. If something is good for me, it has to be good for you. If I do something that is not good for me, it's not good for the population as a whole. So we're looking at a wholeness in regards to our actions. So what does all this mean? I mean, it's a lot of technical jargon, it's a lot of psychological stuff, but basically what we're saying is that each and every one of us has our very own unique and individual reality. Your reality is your reality. I can't get into it, and you can't get out of it. It's as simple as that. Your reality is based on everything you've learned up to this point in time, everything that's been told to you, every instinct you've had, every intuitive thought, everything that you've imagined, who you think you are, all those things combine together and they create a reality for you, and that reality is how you look out at the world, and it's how you perceive what is happening, and the perception of what is happening comes back to you with an emotional experience. Now, we have a lot of similarities within our realities. I mean, we all have certain things that we like and certain things that we dislike, but basically, you in your reality is going to dictate the emotional experience that you have in life. It's as simple as that. If you have certain things within your reality that reflect back on yourself with a disdain or inferiority or not feeling right in some way, that's in your reality, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the truth. It's just in that realm of consciousness, those things exist. But when you move into the next realm, those things remain there. They don't follow through into the higher realm where all of those things are absent. Now, if we move from the first realm of consciousness to the second realm of consciousness, we don't leave the first realm behind. The second realm simply subsumes it, and that first realm is still there within it. And it's that way all the way up the chain. So whatever realm of reality you're in, you have all the further realms of consciousness along with that. If I'm walking down the street and somebody comes up and puts a gun in my face, I'm going to revert back to that first realm of consciousness, which is survival, safety, and security. I'm going to be scared. And that's the only thing I'm going to be thinking about at that particular time. I'm not going to think about my career. I'm not going to think about saving the world. I'm not going to think about anything except how do I stay alive and stay well. As we move up the chain and we move into different levels of or realms of consciousness, so to speak, somebody might say something to us that is degrading or disrespectful. And even though we've moved to a realm of consciousness where we're somewhat immune to that, sometimes it can strike where we revert back to that realm of consciousness where we feel bad about ourselves because we believe what somebody else is saying is true. Now, about 100 years ago, researchers discovered that we have the power to create our reality. You know, up until that time, evolution was kind of driving the train. It was going wherever it wanted to go, and we didn't have any say in it. We were never asked if we wanted to evolve. Some ways it might be quite delightful to still be a caveman. Think of the worries that I would be able to release. Evolution continues to push us forward. It continues to nudge us forward. It doesn't ask us if we want to evolve. It doesn't tell us what we're going to evolve into. It just does it. But 100 years ago, it was discovered that we can participate in that evolution. And that's very important for two reasons. By participating, by interacting in the evolution of our own individual consciousness, we can speed things up. We don't have to go at the snail's pace that's taken place for the last 100,000 years. We can speed things up, but also we can custom design the level of consciousness that we want to go to. We can take that which we value, which first of all I think should be first love. You have to love yourself before you can express any degree of love to another person. And if your love is on a scale of 1 to 10, if your love is at a 7, the most you can love anybody else is at a scale of 7. So loving ourselves is the first thing, and love simply means 100% unconditional self-acceptance. Very hard for many of us to do, impossible for others to do, because we have such pressure from our culture. If we're born into this world, we're expected to be a certain thing. You're supposed to be a little boy, or you're supposed to be a little girl. And if you're a little boy, little boys are like this. They're rough and tough, and big boys don't cry. And if you're a little girl, you're ladylike, and you're polite, and you're gentle. And those are just the norms of culture, but they don't really reflect that within us that is the true self. It limits us, and it puts us into this mold, so to speak, that shapes us into what society expects us to be. And it seems all perfectly natural in that realm of consciousness. But as we move up, all of that disappears. It's we can be whoever we want to be, and whoever we want to be normally comes forth from the nature of our being. It's like who we really are. This is who I am. I can be in that flower garden we talked about earlier and pretend all day that I'm a rose, but if I'm a tulip, I'm a tulip, and I'm going to have the desire to become a tulip. You understand what I mean? It's giving us the freedom to be who we are and be immune to criticism or objections from people around us. And the only obligation we have is to respect the God-given rights of another person to do the same. Our God-given right is to be who we are, live our life the way we choose, as long as we don't inhibit or prevent somebody else from doing exactly the same thing. It all narrows down to consciousness, the way we think, the way we see the world. And sometimes we kind of get the feeling that we're at the end of the line, that we're the finished product, that this is it. This is the end of the evolutionary path. But that's not true at all. We have been able to isolate two realms of consciousness that we're moving into. But we also know that beyond that, there's many realms of consciousness. A lot of the things that ail us in this particular time, a lot of the things that plague our peace of mind or our sense of well-being are things that we can leave behind as we move forward. If you have something in your life that disrupts your peace of mind or that makes you feel not good about yourself, that creates anger or jealousy or resentment towards another person, all those things that create a sense of dis-ease or unwellness, if you have one of those things and everything you do doesn't seem to be able to take you beyond that, that doesn't mean that you're plagued with that for the rest of your life. What that means is when you're able to release the thoughts that go around those things that disrupt your peace of mind, when you're able to open yourself up and release those, evolution itself will move you to a place where you'll find a solution in a higher level of consciousness. We can never find the solution to our problems or our challenges or our hurts or our sufferings in the same realm of consciousness in which they exist. We have to move beyond them so we can reflect back and understand that there's a better way to live and a better way to do things. This is quite exciting. Over the next 4 weeks, we are going to talk more about level 7 and level 8, and how we can take the first baby steps into that new realm of consciousness, how we can release many things that are really detrimental to our mental, emotional, and physical health, and discover a new life. You're the architect of your destination. You are the one that get to design it. You might listen to other people, you might get other opinions, but you're the one that basically says, this is the way I'm going to live. This is the way I'm going to look at my world. This is the way I'm going to see myself. And this is the way I'm going to go forward onto the evolutionary path for greater joy in life. It's going to be a quite remarkable time. So as we move into meditation, stop and think about these realms of consciousness that I've just talked about. Stop and think about things in your life that might not be easy for you, that might plague you. See if you can come to a point where you can just open your arms and release those attitudes that pull you down or set you back, and just open your arms to a new way of thought, a new way of thinking. Evolve your thought. You can do that right now in this very moment. We'll now move into meditation.